It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
6:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Wednesday, so over the hump we go, and pay attention to that weather forecast today. It's changed a lot, and I'll give you more details on that as the morning goes on. So will Don Day. 6:45 as an extended forecast. We get to 7:45. He's going to give you the whole deal with me live on the radio. Because, a lot has changed, and some people are going to get more snow and weather, and other people are going to get less of it. He'll explain the whole thing.
Today's show is sponsored by shrimp-flavored breath mints.
Yum.
Seals love them, and you will too.
I just wonder, does it come with any kind of dipping sauce? Because then I'd be in favor of it. Maybe I would be in favor of it. Okay. I'm just trying to picture what shrimp-flavored dipping sauce would... And then it's a breath mint. So you chew this sucker down, and that's going to make... Okay. I'll work on it. I'll let somebody else try it, then I'll let you know. All right, so we have today the announcement, you probably heard that by now, that former President Trump and Joe Biden, current President Joe Biden, are both on the ticket now. It's unofficially official. Because they both won enough votes in their primaries to make them the official nominee. Now, I still say, and I haven't strayed from this yet, I still say that nothing is done until it's done. Wait until these guys actually accept their nominations, then you can say they're the nominees. This is too strange of a world. It looks to me like it's going to happen, but I've seen, and you have too in your lifetime, bizarre things happen as you get close to the finish line. So we'll wait and see. Trigger warning.
Warning. This show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karens, bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave. Just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Now, in the analysis of all of this, we have President Biden and former President Trump going head-to-head again in a rematch. Since now they both have the numbers to do it. When it gets to their conventions, their party's conventions, that's how it's supposed to play out, and probably will. But again, the world is strange, so I like to wait until something's over before I say that it's actually happened, right? So with that in mind, you're going to have to put up with the next couple of days of nonstop analysis if you're someone who bothers to turn on any of the three former news networks. And I say former because none of them really do that much news anymore. Fox, CNN, and MSNBC hardly ever really do news. It's mostly commentators. And most of what you're going to hear is just a waste of time. And I even was just a moment ago, while you're listening to that last little bit I played, looking at the numbers in the story, and I think it really doesn't matter. There's still a couple of primaries that happen. We haven't had one here in Wyoming yet. So there's still a couple of places where they can scoop up some more delegates and votes, but the numbers are officially in. So then it's just a matter of playing the game to find out who is actually going to win the presidency from here on out. We're pretty much done unless something unusual happens between now and then. And I still beg the Democrat Party, first off, let's start with the Democrat Party, please find somebody else, which I did the first time around. Because, as you know, I home cared my dad for 6 years through Alzheimer's. I know what I'm seeing here. And he's not lasting another 4 years. This kind of cognitive, let's call it a disability, it depends on what causes it and how fast it progresses. Just depends on the person, what's going on with them. For some people, it's quickly. For some people, it takes a very long time. And I was saying when Biden ran for president the first time, he does not have what it takes mentally to do this. And that's been proven as far as I'm concerned. Because he's not really running the show. The way I see it, he's not really running the show. As far as Trump is concerned, well, one of the biggest concerns from the Republican side is, does he bring too much baggage with him? Because you got to pick up, the hardcore Democrats aren't going to vote for him. So you got to pick up those middle-of-the-road voters. And that's who Trump has to appeal to. So can he do that? If not, we wind up with Biden again. And if anyone out there is thinking, I can predict this, no, you can't. The world is just far too strange. And I do remember I went to a website that tracks who's running for what offices across the country. And I just typed in fact, let me go ahead and do that again. All you got to do is type in presidential, candidates, and it wants to say 2020. I don't care about 2020. I'm going 2024. There you go. Presidential candidates 2024. There's several places to look at. Ballotpedia is another one. They often put up a pretty good analysis of who's running. And they show, both these websites show pictures of it. But okay, on the Democrat side, there's Joe Biden, and there's 3 people running against him. And let's see, Jason Palmer has 3 delegates. Biden has the rest. The other 2 Democrats running against Biden have not picked up a single delegate. And then there's Donald Trump. Okay, so Vivek, remember him? He got 3 delegates. Ron DeSantis got 9 delegates. Nikki Haley got 94. Trump has the rest. That's it. So as I continue to scroll on down, let me say it now. They're mostly Democrat, Republican candidates. Now I got to bail out of this website here because this is what I'm looking for. Who's running in 2024? Who are the presidential candidates? Now the best site that I find to go to is the New York Times, which I'm not someone who really trusts the New York Times. I really don't. But they do have a good page on this one. And the only thing that's left is independent third party. So there's Kennedy, who's independent. Then there's 2 candidates for the Green Party, and that's it. As I scroll on down looking for anybody else, the Constitution Party doesn't offer anybody, if you're looking for a third party, and neither does the Libertarian Party. They're not even in this race. So that's it. That's really your 2 choices here. It's just going to be Biden or Trump, and there's nobody else. So unless you want to do a write-in, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens now. It's going to be an interesting repeat. And I'm curious, do you think when we get to debates, if we have them, and that's been a big question, are they going to be able to take Joe Biden and jack him up on Red Bulls the way they did for his State of the Union address so he can make it through? We'll see. All right. We have a long way to go on this. This is just getting started and is going to get, trust me, really weird.
Woke Radio, WOK! Time to get up, everybody, and go to work. You know you don't have anywhere to go, so let's play some soft, easy favorites that'll help you sleep in until noon.
When you need to know quicker than the morning paper or the 5 o'clock news, you need Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Mornings on K2 Radio.
6:21's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Eddie Johns over there in Granite Canyon. Said, morning, Glenn. Did you hear Don's podcast this AM? He sounded absolutely giddy. Yes, I watch his podcast every morning. And he did. Don Day's the weatherman, and he does a YouTube podcast, if you will, which is about 5 minutes long on average, to give a detailed look at the weather. And you're going to hear at 6:45 basically the same thing. When there's a lot of weather happening, our regional man, Don Day, just is giddy as all hell. When the weather's the same for a good long time, he almost sounds depressed. And he knows the seasons when the weather gets really just dull and boring. I often tell him, Don, that's when you're supposed to go on vacation. He rarely does at that time, but that's when he really should. So, yeah, you'll hear him this morning. It sounds absolutely giddy. Now, normally I don't play something this long, but I think it's worth doing it. So yesterday, I happened to be walking by a television, and I went, whoops, and I sat down. And I watched House Judiciary Committee. Our representative in the House, Harriet Hageman. This is the special counsel, Robert Hur, that whole report that he gave on Biden with all of the classified documents that were in his garage and the trunk of his car. And looking at some of the pictures of some of those boxes, these were cardboard boxes that were falling apart. So Harriet Hageman is questioning her. There's the whole bit about, her didn't think that we should go ahead and prosecute Biden because he's an old man with a failing memory and a jury would have sympathy. But he also said at the same time he is not exonerating Biden because many Democrats are using that as, well, he's exonerating Biden of all of those classified. No, he did not. And he flat out said that in the meeting. But I'd like you to hear Harriet Hageman as she tries to get this guy to answer a question, and he dodges. Now, of course, Harriet has decades of taking on the federal government in court all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and winning. So she knows what she's doing here.
Special Counsel Hur, when you determined that no criminal charges should be brought against President Biden in this matter, you focused on the specific facts surrounding the classified documents where President Biden stored them and on his memory and age. You wrote that President Biden's, quote, memory was significantly limited during his recorded interviews with the ghostwriter in 2017 and during his interview with the Special Counsel's Office in 2023. You also expressed concern that prospective jurors would be persuaded by President Biden's presentation as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. Your assessment, however, was focused on how President Biden would currently present to a jury if he stood trial. Is that correct?
That was an element of my explanation to the Attorney General for my decision. It was not the only element.
Okay, that wasn't my question, but it was one of the things that we were considering was his current state of mind, his current memory. Correct?
One of the things that I considered would be how, whenever a trial theoretically were to be held, how President Biden would present himself to the jury if he elected to testify.
Okay. You did not compare President Biden's current memory or condition with his memory or condition when he was in the Senate or when he left the vice presidency and took the classified documents subject to your investigation. Is that right?
Actually, I believe that's not correct, Congresswoman. One of the things that's in the report is an assessment of the president's memory based on recordings from the 2016-2017 timeframe, recordings of conversations between Mr. Biden and his ghostwriter, and comparing that with the president's memory that he exhibited during our interview of him in October of 2023. So there was a comparison there.
Okay, but unless there was some issue undisclosed to the American people during his 50 years in office, you found that Mr. Biden fully understood his legal responsibility related to the handling of classified materials, which is why you concluded in your report that Mr. Biden, quote, willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. You state that on page 1, correct?
I believe that what I stated on page 1 was that we identified evidence that Mr. Biden willfully retained classified information after the end of his vice presidency, but ultimately we concluded that the evidence was insufficient to warrant.
I understand that. Please listen to my question. What I'm getting at is that Mr. Biden fully understood that he could not keep classified information at his home as both a former senator and vice president. Isn't that right? He understood that, correct?
My understanding is that based on the evidence, my assessment was that a jury...
That isn't what my question was. Please listen to my question. My question was that Mr. Biden understood when he was a senator and vice president that he could not keep classified materials at his home, at his garage, and in other offices. Is that fair?
I don't think that's accurate, Congresswoman, because when Mr. Biden was vice president, he was authorized to have classified material in his home.
But after he left, he knew that he was not entitled to keep classified information at his home, correct?
After he left, there is evidence to suggest that he knew that he could not legally have classified information in his home. However, there is evidence with respect to his notebooks that he believed he was authorized to keep the notebooks at home based on precedent.
Based on precedent. You know, I guess the way that I would put it is this. President Biden knew better. He knew that he wasn't entitled to keep these documents from when he was a senator, and he knew he wasn't entitled to keep these documents after he had left the vice presidency. But because he's now suffering from an impaired memory, as you so delicately put it, he got away with it. Is that fair?
Okay, so, and this goes on back and forth. You get the basic idea. I like where she's going with this, so we can talk about the president's impaired memory now. You wouldn't put the guy on trial. I mean, he's a kind old, well-meaning old man with a failing memory. Yes, but back when he was not vice president, but a citizen, he knew he was not supposed to have classified documents in his house anymore. And yet there they were in broken cardboard boxes that were falling apart in his garage, which was not a secure thing, and in the trunk of his car. Okay, and so what about then? And why is it that Biden is given a pass on this, and so is Hillary Clinton, but not Trump? Okay. Just wanted you to hear that all the way through in case you missed it yesterday, because I thought that was a really interesting exchange. But that's Harriet Hageman for you, our representative. She's really good, but she's been doing this for decades in court and winning. So coming up on 6:30, local news coming in right after local news, a very giddy dawn day with the weather forecast, because there's a lot happening, so he's happy. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Live and local, all across Wyoming. Wake up, Wyoming, with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join in at 888-97-WOODS or the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
.36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Let's see, Dan and Cheyenne writes to me, let us not forget that Biden as vice president could not declassify documents. Trump as president could declassify documents. That's true, too. All right, we're just going through what happened yesterday at the hearing, where once again, some people are trying to give President Biden a pass on having classified documents in his garage, unsecure, which is supposed to be a criminal act, and he should be in jail for that. And Hillary, too. Well, we'll go after Trump for it, but those two guys get a pass. Okay. Even though they all did the same thing. In different levels, but they all did the same thing. All right. I'm going to read this to you just because it's going to drive you nuts. Just so you know, I'm just going to drive you nuts. And then we'll listen to a very giddy dawn day, give you an extended weather forecast, because we do have some weather coming into the area today. This is from Reddit, a website where, people just post and chat about things. And this person asks a question. How do I make vegan donuts taste like donuts? Vegan. Okay, if you're wondering, what's a vegan donut? Okay, a vegan donut is vegans don't like using any animal products at all. Okay, so that means if they're going to make donuts, they can't use things like butter, for example. No eggs, no butter, whatever else you might be putting into your donut. It has to be all plant-based. All right, so the post says, I've made some vegan donuts before using a recipe I found online with lots of good reviews. I followed the recipe to a T, except I use natural-tasting sunflower oil instead of vegan butter. I don't even know what vegan butter is. Vegan butter wouldn't be butter. In order for it to be butter, it has to come from a cow. But all right. The donuts, unfortunately, ended up tasting nothing like donuts. So the other day, I went to a donut shop to see if their vegan donuts tasted any better than mine, and that's just how vegan donuts taste. To my surprise, the donuts tasted exactly how I remember donuts tasting. They made them fresh for me, and I think they used some kind of a donut mix because it took them 10 minutes to make them. I found a website that sells vegan donut mix that it's almost identical to the ingredients you see listed on the box in the supermarket donuts. Do I need to use a mix to make donuts taste like donuts, or should I make another donut dough from scratch but use vegan butter this time? Yeah, so what's the missing ingredient? I can tell you what the missing ingredient is. Butter. Chet from Yoder, get a rope. Are you talking about the vegan thing? Yeah, okay. No, it's just, look, if you want to go this route, go this route. That's fine by me. If you want to be a vegan. I don't care. Go ahead. Just remember now, don't call something, please, for my sake, don't call something that it isn't. If it's not made from milk, it's not butter, it's something else. It's a butter substitute. And if you're wondering, well, how come it doesn't taste like regular donuts? Because you didn't use butter. You didn't use dairy in it. This is why. So you're really going out on a limb here. Personally, I like my donuts with real butter and bacon. Yeah, sprinkled on top of the donuts. But then again, I'm not a vegan, am I? Boy, the extent that they go through they want to eat everything that we eat. In other words, there's even, I've seen vegan sausage. So you want to enjoy the taste of dead animal without having to eat dead animal. Oh, okay. You want to enjoy everything that we do. You just don't want to have to actually engage in the dead animal thing. Like those hamburgers, the meatless hamburgers, the fake meat hamburgers they put out. They want to enjoy a hamburger just like you and I do. But they just don't want it to be meat. Okay. To them, I say, look, you're going to have to make a decision here. If you're going to go vegan, if that's what you want to do, go ahead. Just understand, I mean, if you still have a craving for hamburger, for example, maybe you don't want to be a vegan. By the way, yesterday, and I'll go through it again today, it's official. Being a vegetarian or vegan makes you more gassy than someone who's not, which helps contribute to climate change. I know, okay, hang on. I have the scientific evidence to prove that, but we'll have to talk about that next hour. But hang in there. Oh, they're going to hate this.
In the last 11 years, 115 people died of weightlifting accidents in a gym. In that same 11 years, only one person died of eating a donut. Make good choices, people.
Serious takes on local politics, or something like that. Tune in weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
6:48 the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino is waiting by. Frank, I just came across a picture here. It was a class that you and I would have remembered. When did you graduate high school?
1980.
Okay. I was 83. So we weren't too far off there. And do you remember the typing class?
Oh, I did, because you had the type, now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country, which was something that you had to type like if you typed 70 words a minute, you're really good. Yeah. But it was just rote memory.
Right. But there's also things like that where if you're typing that, you're using every letter of the alphabet.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and that was also a key. And plus you're punctuating and stuff like that. So I'm looking at a picture of a 1980s high school typing class, and I'm thinking, I did that.
I did too.
I sucked at it, but I did that.
Yeah.
I was more back then of a hunt and pecker, but I could do it really fast.
I still have to look at the keys.
Okay. At some point when computers started coming around for home, and here I am typing away, and I realized as we got into the Windows format and icons on the screen and so on, that it made more sense to look at the screen. So I spread my fingers out and found out, oh, I can type, because I've been doing hunt and pecking for so long, I know where everything is. But you still have to look down from the
I do, and I'm a bad typer. I always hit the middle.
Oh, okay.
Always.
Yeah, okay. Now, my typing has gotten really extraordinarily fast. Unfortunately, I'm still a little bit dyslexic, so it's just like I was hitting the wrong keys anyway, so it just goes back. But still, I'm looking at this picture here, Frank, and I'm thinking that's one of many classes they had for us back in the 80s.
Well, yeah, because if you wanted to get into the secretarial business, I mean, they wanted to know how many words a minute you could type.
Oh, sure. Back then, they still had a thing called a typing pool because, copy machines were relatively a new thing.
Right.
So they would have a lot of people sitting around typing stuff up. Now, here's another one for you. I want you to picture a U.S. military fighter jet that is 50 years old.
Okay.
Now, can you picture what that jet would look like? It's okay if you can't think of the name of one.
No, I can't think of it.
So I tend to picture, if you're ever in Cheyenne, you'll see one out there on display. It's a mock-up of a Sabre jet from the Korean War. Okay, that's got swept wings, and that the hole is right up the middle of the airplane.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. That actually is not a 50-year-old plane. If you want a 50-year-old plane, you're talking about the F-16.
Really, the F-16 is 50 years old?
Yes. So how old do you feel now?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. I was looking at that thinking, no, I tend to picture like, Korean or Vietnam era jets. I don't picture something like the F-16. I'm thinking that's probably maybe 10 years old. Nope. That's a 50-year-old plane.
Wow. Men's college basketball, the Wyoming Cowboys in action this afternoon. They'll take on Fresno State in the Mountain West Conference tournament in Las Vegas. The Pokes have been a middle-of-the-road team this season at 15-16 overall, and Fresno is just plain bad at 11-20. UW crushed Fresno over the weekend, so you would think this is a very, very winnable game from Wyoming's point of view. And the winner of this afternoon's game gets the top seed in the tournament, Utah State. That'll be tomorrow. This afternoon's game starts at noon Mountain Time. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KCGY in Laramie. Junior college basketball, the Casper College Women's Region 9 tournament will be hosted by Casper College this year, and the T-Birds will come in as the number one seed from the North with a record of 25-5 and ranked 16th in the country. So they will play McCook, Nebraska tomorrow at the T-Bird Gym at 7 p.m. McCook won their tournament playing game over Lamar, and the men's Region 9 tournament will be in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. Casper College is 23-8. They'll take on McCook, Nebraska. T-Birds won their play-in game over the weekend, beating Eastern Wyoming 114-94, and then McCook beat NJC and Sterling by 2 points in their play-in game, and those respective Region 9 tournaments will run through Saturday. High school basketball, the 4A All-State teams have been announced for the boys. Drew Jackson of Cheyenne East named All-State for the third time in his career. 4A state champion Cheyenne Central had a two-time All-State selection in Joe Sawyer, and his teammate Sam Shumway was named All-State for the first time. 4A runner-up Laramie had two players make All-State. Neil Summers, who was a two-time All-State pick, is one of them, and Jaden Smith is the other. Natrona's Colton Rogers was also named All-State. On the girls' side, Brady Schlabs of Cheyenne East, now a four-time All-State selection, and her teammate Jade Brown made All-State for the first time. Izzy Kelly of Cheyenne Central and Kennedy DeVille of Kelly Walsh are first-time All-State picks, and Laramie's Addison Forey made All-State for the second straight year. College wrestling, Wyoming Cowboy guy Jory Volk punched his tickets to the NCAA Wrestling Championships as he won the Big 12 Tournament Championship in Tulsa over the weekend. Volk beat Oklahoma State's Troy Spratley 3-2 with a takedown in the last half minute of the match. The sophomore won all three of his matches at the Big 12 Tournament by 1 point, and that NCAA tournament begins a week from tomorrow in Kansas City. That's in sports.
I'm sorry about making you feel old there, Frank.
Well, I'm old. That's that's just the way it is. I'm not, everyone goes one direction.
Yes, that's right. We all just work toward the old thing there. But it's okay. At least, still though, you can run up these stairs with a spring in your step, right?
Well,
no.
One or the other.
Yeah, it's okay. You can fall down the stairs with a spring.
That's easy.
Okay, much better. All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business that we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National, local update on the weather forecast. Wake up, Wyoming.
Mountain.
Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. I will have this hour at 7:45 Don Day because you can tell he's sounding giddy, right? You heard him on your local radio station talking about the weather. If Don Day sounds giddy, it means that weather's happening. And this storm system that's coming in, it's gone through a lot of changes. So some of you are going to get hit pretty good. Some of you not much at all. Some will get rain. Some will get snow. I mean, it's all over the place. That's what puts him in a good mood. 7:45, he's on with me live as your regional weatherman. We'll talk about that system moving in. Also, before I get into anything here, there's several people I made feel really old because I was talking to Frank about things that make us feel really old. Like seeing a picture of typing class back when we had typewriters in high school and we had to take typing class. Well, not everybody had to, but I did. And I just completely sucked at it. But I got better at it when computers came around. Now I type all the time and really fast. But at the time, I wasn't very good at it to start with. My brain just didn't think that way. I just got good at it with lots of practice over the years, right? And then I pointed out, if you think about an airplane for war, and you think of a 50-year-old airplane. Now, Carol and Casper, I don't want to play that game anymore. When I think about a 50-year-old airplane, I think of the show Black Sheep Squadron. Yeah, but you see, that's a lot longer than 50 years ago. World War II was a lot more than 50 years ago. So, you don't. And then I mentioned the jet fighter, the Sabre, which was used in the Korean War, which is more than 50 years ago. That's what I tend to think of when I think of a 50-year-old airplane. If you're in Cheyenne, Wyoming, you go driving by the base there, you'll see, there's the big airplane there, and of course that's a transport plane. It's been around for a long time. And then there's a Sabre jet. Now, neither of those planes are real. They're mock-ups. But there's a Sabre jet on display because the National Guard unit out of there used to fly those Sabre jets. That's not a 50-year-old airplane. That's older than 50 years. So I get this note from AC in Hillsboro. He said, you started saying F-15s, but changed it to F-16, both 1970s. F-16 is 1976, so only 48 years. Okay. I thought I was saying both times F-16. That's what I thought I was saying. I meant F-16. The F-16 was first flown 50 years ago. Yeah, I'm not talking about when it was officially put into service. I mean, when the F-16 was first flown. That was 50 years ago. So if you want to talk about a 50-year-old airplane, that's your guy.
Today's show is sponsored by shrimp-flavored breath mints. Seals love them, and you will too.
Off we go to Laramie where Mike is on the phone. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Glenn, talking about old aircraft.
Yeah.
I mean, F-15's older than the F-16.
Yeah.
And they're still... And what about the B-52 and the KC-135 that are still in the inventory and still... There are air crews in the B-52 today whose grandfathers flew those.
Sure. There are some airframes that have been around for... Now, some of them were built way back when you're talking about... The one I fly, it was built in the 70s, but designed, which is, Cessna 172, but was designed in the 1950s. They first started selling them in the 1950s, and the plane has gone through a few changes, but not many, and they're still making them to this day. You can buy a brand new one. Think about that, an airframe that's been around for that long. So I fly something that was built in the 70s. Wow. You might think that's scary, but when you build a really good airframe, it can take it. They take care of them so well. So, there's a lot of old military aircraft which are still out there flying today, which you think should be obsolete. But when they built it, they built something so good, they can just keep on using it.
They did. Yeah, what's happened with the buffs and the tankers, they've gotten new engines over the years, but the airframe, if you go to a B-52, and I've seen them, the skin on the outside of the fuselage is actually wrinkled.
Oh.
From the stresses they've had to deal with.
Yeah.
But they're still around, and, it's a test. People have been complaining about Boeing, but they're both Boeing products.
Right.
And they're still in the air.
Boeing is having new problems. Old Boeing was brilliant. New Boeing has to take a look at some of its management. They're having problems.
Yeah, they are. But the last incident with the tire that fell off the United jet, before they go screaming at Boeing, they should check, maybe that was United's fault if a tire fell off in a Boeing design. One thing we did mention is a B-52 isn't capable of taking off and flying. Yeah.
But
it scares the ground. It scares the ground away, is what it does.
Yeah, that's what it does. It's that big. Yeah. I always look at those things when they come in for a landing. I look at them and think it looks like it's moving so slow. It's not, but it's so big it gives the impression that it's barely moving through the air.
I mean, it even has landing gear on the wingtips.
Yeah. Oh, these are huge things. Well, and
they're huge. I mean, I've seen them up close and personal.
Yeah. What's the Galaxy airplane that they have? That's like the biggest thing the military has ever put out, if I'm naming that right.
Oh, that was the C-5.
C-5, yeah.
Yeah, they're out of the inventory now.
Oh, are they? Okay. Because those suckers were just huge.
They were huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those up close. They're big.
Yeah. Well, and if you even take a look at some of the planes, like when you take a look at the F-16 and the F-18 Hornets, and Super Hornets, even those now are starting to age out, and those they were brought into service in our lifetime, and they'll end their service in our lifetime. It doesn't seem like that long, does it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, when I was flying F-4, some of the ones I flew were 10 to 20 years old.
Yeah. And from what I understand, a lot of it has to do not so much with its ability to twist and turn and break Mach and so on. It's the technology that they're putting into it, which is very futuristic technology. The old style of dogfighting is disappearing because of the technological battle that's going on up there.
Yeah, there's an article in Air Force magazine about the F-35s, where essentially what's going to happen with those is the pilot will be standing off at some distance from the battlefield, essentially using a joystick to send drones and cruise missiles to the battlefield rather than actually getting engaged with them himself.
Right, and they have a fleet of those going in together, and they're all working together. The computers are working together to coordinate who should go after what. And I was just explaining to someone a few minutes ago down the hallway, when you watch it, and this drives me nuts, Mike, when I see what's supposed to be a futuristic sci-fi movie, and you see dogfighting going on, right? And they still have those beams that come out, and they still use World War II tactics. Well, we don't do that today. Yeah. Today, a pilot can shoot at the guy who's behind him with a missile.
I know, but with the loss of the dogfight, it takes all the fun out of it.
It does, yeah. I think it.
I mean, there's nothing.
Well,
there's nothing more fun than going up there.
There's still maneuvering, but the maneuvering is not to line the guy up for the shot. The maneuvering is to avoid what was shot at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. It's not as fun.
It's so much fun. It's not as much fun.
That's what we need to do: is have a United Nations meeting where we decide to bring the fun back to war.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Well, that conversation just ended on a wrong note, didn't it? Well, it's Wake Up Wyoming, so trigger warning.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilet, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Real quick, Phil in Cheyenne says the C-5 is still in service, and Rick in Cheyenne, the SR-71. Oh, yeah. There are all sorts of planes that could still be in service today. It's a matter of putting today's technology into what is still a great old airframe that would still work just fine. 7:15, Wake Up.
It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio. Join the show at 888-97-WOODS.
7:21 the time. All right, I'm going to keep going with this only because all sorts of people are weighing in. And by the way, you don't have to just call the show, 888-97-WOODS. A lot of the people who are weighing in are doing it off the Wake Up Wyoming app. Now, if you haven't downloaded that yet, it's free. It's at your app store. Go to your mobile device, app store, type in Wake Up Wyoming. There it is. And one of the many options besides listening to this show later in the day as a podcast, for free, it's all free, touch the chat option and send me text messages. Okay, so for those who need to get caught up, here's what we're doing. I was making Frank Gambino feel old. And I mentioned if you thought of a fighter airplane for the U.S. Air Force, military, whatever the case, Marines, whatever, what do you think of as a 50-year-old airplane? Now, you might think of the Sabre jet, but that was all the way back in the Korean War. Now, we're talking 50 years old. The first F-16 flew, not was introduced into service, but flew 50 years ago. The F-16 is a 50-year-old airframe. In that case, it's a 50-year-old plane, right? So that gets us into this whole discussion here, and other people are weighing in. Let me see. Wingnut. I'm a former F-4 maintenance operator. One of the greatest things I ever heard a pilot say was that the Phantom is proof that if you put enough engine on it, you can fly a brick. I have heard that before. That's true about the Phantom. And also the smoke trail it left behind. Dear Lord. Mandy May and Casper, the A-10 Warthog. Well, this will make you feel a little bit older. The Warthog first flew in 1972. Yeah, 1972 is when the Warthog first flew. It was built for a different era. The Warthog was built for an era when the Soviet Union was going to rush Europe with just loads of armored vehicles, not just tanks, but all sorts of armored vehicles. How do we take them all out? Well, we need something that can fly over and just dump a bunch of bullets and bombs and missiles and go back not too far and reload and go back and do it again. And that's what the Warthog was. Today, though, the Warthog is in danger because, as you saw in the Ukraine, Russia has their version of the Warthog, a different looking, but it does the same thing. And those planes were being taken out like crazy by shoulder-fired missiles. Anybody can just pick up a missile and fire off from their shoulder and walk away, and the missile will go find the target. And so Russia lost a lot of those airplanes. So it's very dangerous to put a close support airplane on the front line like that, on the front line like that. So that's why there's questions about the Warthog. But think about how far off that was. Now, here's the next one. Let's get out of the air for a moment. The Humvee, was first rolled off the assembly line in 1985. And what is that for? Check my math. Is that like 38 years ago? The whole point of this was, doesn't that make you feel kind of old? Let's see, Mark and Centennial. First flight, 1966, Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird. 1966 that was. Wow. Okay, so again, this is stuff that just kind of makes you feel old. Some of you guys go to a classic car show. I love going to classic car shows. I love that. And you look at those classic cars and go, that's a classic now? How is that a classic now? Well, because you're a classic now, too. That's how. Some of those things are just absolutely that old. And you don't think of it as that old. But I do the same thing when I'll watch a movie, which to me, the movie is still a new movie. It doesn't seem that old. And all the actors in the movie look really good looking and young. And then I find out the movie came out like 40 years ago, and I get a look at what those actors look like today, and I'm going, holy crap. Now I'm not, just say I'm 59, okay? I certainly don't act it, I know. But have you done this? You gone to the grocery store and you look at that little old lady shuffling down the aisle. And then you realize you graduated high school with her. Have you done that? Okay. Because some of you out there have done that. All right. Just so you know. There's certain, and for the younger people who are listening right now, you just wait. Because at some point, like today's cell phones that you're using, to me, they've been around for a little while, but to me, it still seems like very new technology. And in the scheme of things, it really is. It really hasn't been around all that long, today's modern-day cell phone. What do you think you're going to be holding by the time you get old? Because I do find some young people who look at old people who they look at today's cell phones and they just don't get, I don't understand these damn people today staring at their cell phones all day long over there. Well, if you used it, you would understand it. That the available knowledge of the world is in the palm of your hands, and you can do so much with it. When you look at Star Trek, which is a very old television show, the original Star Trek, Spock wishes he had a cell phone rather than a tricorder. Star Trek is a very old. Let's see, it was in the 60s, right, folks? Let me see. I'm gonna try this out because even your old television shows. When did the first episode of Star Trek air? Let's see, list of dates and so on. Okay, I'm kind of going back to this. I know this was back in the 1967 is what I'm getting here. But again, correct me if I'm wrong. But that goes all the way back there. But even when you watch the first Star Trek movie, remember when that came out? We got to see it on the big screen for the first time. And I watched that movie and I think about how young and good looking everybody is. You know, William Shatner is in his 80s, not late 80s now. Yeah, he's that old. He's still doing good, by the way. He's still got a sharp mind. He's still doing television. He walks a little bit slower, but I'm just noticing how time like that. It's a conversation that I was looking for a conversation about airplanes. You know, I love aviation. But just to start thinking about all those things, typing class when I was in high school, and I can't remember the last time I saw a typewriter that wasn't in an antique shop. It used to be I would walk through the offices of the radio stations and there were typewriters in various offices. There had to be. Now, though, it's a computer screen on everybody's desk, and it's very rare to find a desk that doesn't have a computer somewhere. Pretty much everybody has to have a computer on their desk today. And then I wonder, for the younger people listening to me, when you get to be my age, what do you think you're going to find in the office sitting on your desk? Yeah, what kind of technology is going to take over? Because I went from typewriters to computers with the big screens to flat screen technology to we have a cell phone in our hand that does more than we ever imagined. And so I have to ask myself, and what replaces that? Yeah, every time you think they can't possibly push this anymore, and what replaces that? Well, now they're developing glasses that you can wear that would replace all of that. That's one option. All right. Get back into the news and stuff coming up next. Right now, though, speaking of news, local news coming your way. Right after local news update on your weather forecast, and you and I get back into it. For those folks that are wondering about the weather system moving into the area, it is coming. Now, what exactly is it going to look like? Don Day will explain it to you when he joins me at 7:45. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Take Glenn anywhere with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:36 the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Let me see. There's Corey over there in Endicott, Nebraska, reminding me of William Shatner going to space. That just recently happened too. I remember that. He was absolutely amazed. I thought that was fantastic. He finally got to go to space. After a lifetime of watching William Shatner on television doing, Star Trek, and then finally he gets to go to space. If you're just joining us, we got into this whole conversation about things that are a lot older than you think they are, which makes you feel really old, right? Let's see, referring Carpenter, Wyoming. With these newfangled telephones, it's a matter of willingness. I got friends in their 40s that spit their chewing tobacco in the eye of your technology. And there's my 93-year-old grandmother. We text back and forth all the time. I love, and I have embraced today's technology. First off, for those who don't use today's cell phones, you don't have to be tech savvy. You don't. There's no such thing as tech savvy to use them. Here, I'll tell you how to use them. It's real simple. You touch what you want. And when you're done with it, you swipe it away. There you go. Now you know how to use a phone. It's really simple to use. And I like it because I keep in contact with friends and family all day long. I have friends and family all over. Not just in Wyoming, all over the country. And we're constantly sending each other pictures and videos and quick notes. And so, rather than picking up a phone and calling my sister long distance, remember that? Or writing the occasional letter, all day long we're sending quick notes and pictures and videos to each other. And it's so easy to do. Tony and Cheyenne, morning, Glenn. Our office still has 2 active typewriters and are used daily. A younger agent asked me one day what a typewriter was. Come let me show you. I'm 53. That was 3 years ago. Well, this is where I get to pick on Miss Mary a little bit. And Mary, I always wonder if you were being serious with me or not. So we had a reel-to-reel tape player. What had happened was there were some old reel-to-reels that were in a back room somewhere. And our engineer was asked, could you, because this is from the old days. This one of the radio stations that I'm on is K2 Radio in Casper, Wyoming. And that radio station is Wyoming's first radio station. And so there were some old reel-to-reels from way back when. Can you archive this? Could you digitize it? Because eventually that tape will fall apart, right? So he brought out an old reel-to-reel and set it up and plugged it into the board. And then said, hey, Glenn, you're going to want to see this. Well, that's where I started in radio. We were still using that technology. And so I happily sat down and I wound the tape through and I set it up and I queued it up ready to go. And Miss Mary walks in and looks over my shoulder and says, what's that? Oh, Lord, what's that? Now, to this day, Mary, I wonder, were you kidding? Because I looked at her and said, you just made me feel so damn old. What's a reel-to-reel? You must have seen one somewhere before at some time. But, yeah, there are some people who look at that and they just don't know. Now, as we talk about this, by the way, on the ridiculously large television that they have in the studio next to me here, there is right now live on TV, the House of Representatives in D.C. is banning or debating banning TikTok. They want TikTok to cut its ties with China or they're banned in the United States for security reasons. That's where we're at technology-wise. My sister there in Lake Wales, I texted you a nice old phone booth joke. Oh, really? I have to, okay. My phone is behind me. I'll have to go get it, but I'll take a... I do remember, yeah, okay, Chet and Yoder, 50 years ago was 1974. Yeah. That's why I say when you take a look at what started all of this, folks, was I took a look at the, you know, I'm very much in aviation. I love aviation. And I think one of the most beautiful airplanes ever in the United States stockpile of military airplanes is the F-16. It was one of the most amazing airplanes ever created. And we're still using it to this day. It first flew 50 years ago. That's a 50-year-old airframe. That doesn't mean every F-16 in the air is 50 years old, but that's when it first flew. That's a 50-year-old airframe. That's what started this whole conversation here. Oh, by the way, sister dear, yes, phone booths, we've talked about that on the air. I still get kind of giddy when I see a phone booth or a pay phone, and it works. Most of them don't work anymore. They're just leftover. Someone didn't take it down yet. But there used to be pay phones all over the place because we couldn't carry a phone in a pocket. And the first time I suggested to somebody that we could carry phones in our pockets, they laughed at me. I remember when that happened and who I was talking to. All right. Don Day is feeling giddy. That's our regional weatherman. He's feeling giddy because a lot of weather's coming into the area. It's very disorganized and it's making him work. And he likes that. Now, some of you guys are going to get a really good storm. Some are not. I'm going to ask him to decipher all of that just a couple of minutes away. 7:42, Wake Up.
Download the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Listen anywhere and chat live with Glenn during the show on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. Don, you were outright accused. I'm not going to name that it was John from Granite Canyon, so forget that. But of being giddy because of today's weather, because it's making you think, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I like to use the analogy. So let's say you're a doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, and you want to heal people. And you have a doctor's office and no one's sick. You're in the office all day. No one's sick. No one's coming in. You got nothing to do. So when there's weather, I got something to do.
Right. So now Don's feeling good because as this system moves in, it keeps changing up on you.
Well, it is. So this is a tricky one because we talked about how this is sort of a merger between two weather events, a cold front out of Canada and the steep low coming off the Pacific Northwest coast is kind of taking an unusual path. Right now, the low is starting to form in southern Idaho. So you're thinking, well, it's in Idaho, so it's just going to head east and go right across Wyoming. Well, no, this Idaho low is decided that it wants to take a trip to the Grand Canyon, and that's exactly where it's going to go. It's going to go south and go down into northern Arizona and then spin around there for 3 or 4 days. So the storm itself is not going to cross over the divide. It's going to settle down there into the southwestern United States. But the counterclockwise rotation around the low will be able to draw moisture northward into Utah, Colorado, and Wyoming. And that Canadian cold front is going to add some upslope winds to the situation. So the low isn't taking its normal path that we'll see in the middle of March with some of these storms. So to make it snow, to make the weather with this is kind of taking a different pathway. And the way the pathway seems to be is that this storm is really going to focus its attention hard on Colorado. I mean, we're talking feet of snow.
Right.
West of Denver, west of Fort Collins, places like Estes Park, Evergreen, and Conifer, but it will get down into the Front Range of Colorado. The northern extent of some of that heavy snow will get into far southern Wyoming, especially the Snowy Range, where our friend up there on Granite Canyon is, some heavy snow there. But once you get out into the plains, it's not going to be as much of a storm. But one thing that has changed, Glenn, a little bit is the track has changed enough that some of this heavier snow, mainly the moderate snow, is going to get as far north now as Lander, Riverton, Casper, up to Thermopolis, over towards Douglas. So we're going to expand the coverage of the snow a bit more north than we discussed yesterday.
Okay, and you have said in the past that, especially when you're talking around Cheyenne area and so on, when the storm comes from the opposite direction, it can be a bit more impactful as far as the amount of snow.
Well, yeah, and elevation plays a big factor this time of year because some of it's going to be rain once you get below 6,000 feet for a little bit. But the timing and placement of the weather features is critical to how it all comes together. And the thing that maybe has changed over the last 24 hours is that the track of the system is a little more south and west. That's why it's going to be more focused on Colorado as opposed to Wyoming. But the central and southern half of the state, nonetheless, will have some impacts. And we're expecting that especially this evening and overnight tonight and tomorrow morning. Interstate 80 is going to see some travel problems with snow and limited visibility. We could see heavy snow in the Laramie Range. This includes the Casper Mountain area because there's going to be a pretty stiff northeast wind. So the Casper area, for you folks that live on the south end of Casper, or if you live on the north face of Casper Mountain, you're looking at a pretty good spring snow out of this.
Okay. All right. Yet still stay tuned because it sounds to me like it's still developing.
Yeah, I think we're close enough now to where we're getting a good handle on things. But if it ends up tracking a little more north and east, that does bring a chance for that snow to get a little bit further out on the eastern plains, and then that'll be the one thing that we're watching.
Okay. Just don't sound like you're enjoying yourself too much. I mean, it's like when the sick patient shows up to see the doctor shouldn't be happy that the guy is sick.
No.
Is what we're saying here.
All right. So okay. I will just go complete monotone.
Well, no, we don't want that. We want you to love your job. Just don't giggle.
I don't.
Okay. Thank you, Don. Don Day with Dave Weathers. Okay. No, I'll give it to him. He doesn't giggle anyway. Off to the icebox we go. Frank Campbell.
I'm not giggling about snow. I can tell you that right now.
But at least it doesn't hit when you are right in the middle of some, like this weekend, sports. I mean, we should be out of it by then.
But, I would say this, is that there's events scheduled for Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
Just because it's not snowing on Friday or Saturday doesn't mean there's still snow on the ground.
There's going to be some impact, yes. Yeah. So, I just didn't want to see also, because I know you've got a lot of events that were scheduled for this weekend.
You know what, and I could, trust me, I'll raise my hand and say, you know what, I'll take a break.
Okay. Frank needs a break.
I'll take a break. You betcha. All right, in men's college basketball, the Wyoming Cowboys in action this afternoon. They'll take on Fresno State in the Mountain West Conference Tournament in Las Vegas. The Folks have been a middle-of-the-road team this year at 15-16 overall. Fresno's just plain bad at 11-20. UW crushed Fresno over the weekend, so you would think this is a very winnable game from Wyoming's point of view. And the winner of this contest gets the top seed in the tournament, Utah State, tomorrow. This afternoon's game begins at noon Mountain Time. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KCGY in Laramie. Junior college basketball, the women's Region 9 tournament will be hosted by Casper College this year, and the T-Birds come in as the number 1 seed from the north with a record of 25-5. They are rated 16th in the country. They'll play McCook, Nebraska tomorrow at the T-Bird Gym at 7 p.m., and McCook won their tournament play-in game versus Lamar. The men's Region 9 tournament will be in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. Casper College at 23-8 will take on McCook, Nebraska. And the T-Birds won their play-in game over the weekend, beating Eastern Wyoming 114-94, and McCook beat NJC in Sterling, Colorado by 2 in their play-in game. So those Region 9 tournaments will run through Saturday. High school basketball, the 4A All-State teams have been announced. For the boys, Drew Jackson of Cheyenne East named All-State for the 3rd time in his career. 4A state champion Cheyenne Central with a 2-time All-State pick in Joe Sawyer, and his teammate Sam Shumway was named All-State for the 1st time. 4A runner-up Laramie with 2 players making All-State. Neil Summers is a 2-time All-State pick, and Jaden Smith is an All-State pick for the very 1st time, and the Shorenas Golden Rogers was named All-State. On the girls' side, Brady Slabs from Cheyenne East, now a 4-time All-State selection. Teammate Jay Brown made that All-State team for the 1st time. Izzy Kelly of Cheyenne Central and Kennedy DeVille of Kelly Walsh for 1st-time All-State picks. Laramie's Addison Forey made All-State for the 2nd straight year. College wrestling, Wyoming Cowboy Jory Volk punched his ticket to the NCAA Wrestling Championships as he won the Big 12 tournament title in Tulsa over the weekend at 125 pounds. Volk beat Oklahoma State's Troy Spratley 3-2 in a takedown in the last half minute of the match. Sophomore won all 3 of his matches at the Big 12 tournament by a single point, and the NCAA tournament starts a week from tomorrow in Kansas City. That's it in sports.
Okay, so what did you have planned this weekend?
Well, they're supposed to have a softball jamboree in Cheyenne Friday and Saturday. Mm-hmm. What do you think the chances of that happening?
Yeah, okay.
Not much.
Yeah, not much.
There's a track meet in Casper on Saturday. That's
inside, though.
No, the track, everything's out. We're moving outside now.
Okay.
We're in the spring season.
Oh, okay.
So there's a track meet scheduled for Saturday in Casper. Who knows? Soccer jamboree in Gillette. Who knows?
Yeah, okay.
Just because it doesn't mean, that snow, it could be cold.
It could be cold, and people also have to get there. See, you and I both know it's not so much that it snowed, let's say, Wednesday, Thursday. Does it blow around Friday, Saturday?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the big one.
Among other things, yes.
Yes, thank you, Frank. Appreciate it. Yeah, that blowing snow. We get those kinds of winds after the storm moves out, which is usually what happens. That's what impacts travel more than anything else. So, okay. Coming up on those people that live across I-80, keep an eye on that. And also Laramie Range Bighorns, you're going to get some of that. Not massive in some areas. Some people are just going to get a little bit. Other people, pretty good shot. We'll keep you posted on it. Coming up on some local business, news time after that, open phones, 8 o'clock hour. Wake Up Wyoming. 6 at a time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Keep with us because, some weather is moving into the area. We've been updating you on that. It's got a little while before it gets here, but still, some of you are going to get it kind of rough, some not. It's changing as it moves in. Those updates from Dawn Day and Day Weather will continue throughout the day.
Today's show is sponsored by shrimp-flavored breath mints.
Yum.
Seals love them, and you will too.
And she's going to love getting kissed by you if you have seal-flavored breath mint, I'm telling you. Okay, the most dangerous portion of every day on this radio show, and that would be open phones.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave, all right, strap in. and let's do this thing.
888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about or change the subject. Fine by me. Then there's a whole host of people every day who text me using the Wake Up Wyoming app. So if you don't have that yet, App Store, whatever your mobile device is, and just touch your App Store and type in Wake Up Wyoming. There it downloads. It's free. You even get old podcasts of this program for free. Many other things, news alerts if you want them, weather forecast, sports, all of that. But also touch the chat option, and you can send me text messages. So all morning long, let's see, there's Arnie and Casper, AC in Hillsboro, Greg and Cheyenne, RH is down in Wiggins, Colorado. My sister's in Lake Willis, Florida, Chet's in Yoder, Tony, Cheyenne, Reefers from Carpenter, and there's Corey from Endicott, Nebraska. Mark is way over in Centennial, other side of that mountain. Let's see, there's also, let me see, Casper, Wheatland, Wyoming, Wingnut. I mean, it just goes on and on. We even get Gillette calls, Thermopolis, Torrington. You get the idea. So it's what keeps us all in touch here. All right. So I was going to pick up a serious topic, and then I thought, well, why? Ladies and gentlemen, let's go back and talk about how to save us all from the impending. I mean, it's got to be here any time now. They swear. Doomsday climate apocalypse.
So put on your respirator and let's fix that generator. And while we're out, we'll mend our fences too. See, I'm not afraid of dying, just got reasons for surviving. I want one more day in the apocalypse with you.
So we talked about this yesterday, but I've been doing a little bit more thinking about it because it's gross, wrong, disgusting, and inappropriate while people are eating breakfast, which is exactly why I'm doing this. So let's say you're a vegan. And I read something earlier this morning, somebody on Reddit, which is another place where you can go just to chat with folks, was asking, I'm a vegan. I'm trying to make vegan donuts. Now, that doesn't mean, if you're thinking donuts don't have meat, no, vegan as in no animal products. But they just don't taste the same. No, you need butter. And do you use eggs? Depends on what kind of donut you're making, I guess. Depends on what you're doing here as to what. But if you try to do substitutes, it's not going to work out. Well, okay, for you vegans and vegetarians out there, now you're thinking, I'm saving the planet because you meat eaters, well, there's cows, and cows outgas from both ends. And believe it or not, more methane comes out of their mouths than the other end. But cows outgas both methane and CO2, which, as we've discussed before, especially the CO2, that's good for the planet, not bad. But anyway, they're convinced it's bad. So I started to wonder, well, hold on now. I know when I eat my veggies, I get more gassy. And if it's me, you are too. It's everybody out there. So I looked it up. And here's the headline. It's official. Plant-based diets make us gassier. So what's worse for the planet? Yeah. So you vegans out there think that you're doing something to save the planet. But the more you eat, it even says here, burps, not farts, are the problem. Yeah, that's mainly with the cows. But with human beings too? Oh, yeah. And then it goes through all sorts of different kinds of foods here and shows that, yeah, if you're eating a vegetarian or worse yet, vegan diet, lo and behold, it's causing you to put more out in greenhouse gases than if you ate meat. So for those of us who are meat eaters, we've told you before, we're trying to save the planet. And by the way, for you vegetarians and vegans out there, those cows are eating your dinner. And we killed them so you can get out the grass. So you're welcome. Okay? All right. So here are 16 foods, I can give more than this, that make you really gassy, that are offensive. For those of you who were telling your parents that you didn't like eating your vegetables, you were right. Not so much that vegetables were gross to you back then, but little did you know, you were trying to save the planet. And by the way, have you been around a vegan? Don't they kind of smell funny? Yeah, now you know why. Okay. So, let me see. Broccoli. See, you broccoli haters out there. You were right all along. Broccoli is destroying the planet because people eat it and they outgas. Cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. This is all the stuff that you hate. It says, unlike other components of food, fiber reaches the large intestine intact. The majority of the bacteria in the GI tract live in the large intestine. Bacteria have the capacity to utilize fiber for energy. But the the byproduct in the metabolism is gas. That's not to say fiber is bad for you. We're just talking about what outgassing causes and how it destroys the planet. Oats and whole wheat bread. Huh? Whole grains make you gassy for some reason, and the vegetables listed above, they're high quality fiber. So you don't want to skip on fiber. Okay, it's good for your weight, your digestion, stuff like that. However, and then the vegan would be avoiding this anyway, but for the vegetarian, milk, cheese, and yogurt. Dairy contains a type of sugar, lactose, but many people have trouble digesting it because of insufficient amounts of enzymes that make them lactose intolerant, right? That leads to bloating and gas and so on. Okay, then also bad for you. Well, bad for the planet. Good for you, bad for the planet. Apples, bananas, peaches. I love eating fruit. I really do. But now if you know, and there's a famous scene from a famous old movie. See if you can remember it now. Bunch of cowboys sitting around a campfire and they're all eating beans. And it starts getting kind of loud. What movie am I talking about? I wish I had a prize to give away for this one. Okay, so Blazing Saddles, if you're thinking about it. Beans get their reputation for a reason. Most include lentils, nuts, peas also, are high in fiber along with sugars, and your body can't digest properly. Therefore, that was in a Natural Journal, published a study about the bacteria and breakdown and so on. So, yes, beans. Sodas and seltzer. By the way, when you pop open soda, seltzer, and even drink a beer, you're releasing CO2 into the atmosphere. That's what those bubbles are. And that makes you gassy, too. Different proteins. Okay, you need proteins, however. Artificial sweeteners make you gassy. Now, here we get into Grandpa. Figs, prunes, and chestnuts. That's why Grandpa smells bad. Okay, and then it goes on to what you can do. Then it says here near the bottom, and limit your alcohol intake. Okay, right there I just lost everybody. But you see, the point I was trying to make yesterday with all of this is I would say for you vegans and vegetarians, forget electric cars. Don't even bother with electric cars anymore. I have a better idea. Go ahead and be a vegan or a vegetarian and be as gassy as you want to be. And then use it.
America is facing an ongoing energy crisis. As oil gets scarcer, gasoline gets more expensive, and the planet suffers. Electric cars? Most of their electricity comes from coal-fired plants or nuclear reactors. So what's the answer? How about a car that's good-looking, affordable, and runs on clean, environmentally responsible natural gas? Your natural gas. Introducing the Flatula Backfire. It runs like the wind because it's running on wind. Here's how it works. Using state-of-the-art sanitary technology, Flatula captures all your emissions and efficiently channels them directly to a powerful turbocharged engine. It's clean energy, green energy, and best of all, it's renewable. The Backfire's range is practically unlimited, but if you should happen to run low, don't worry. You're never too far from a Flatula authorized service center, where trained, qualified providers stand ready to fill your tank with the gas that's right for your driving needs. Flatula Backfire. It's not just a smart car, it's the fart car.
Well, that image is going to stick with you all day. Wake up, Wyoming. Glenn Woods is live on AM 1030 K2 Radio and the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
8:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Real quick, before I go on to the next topic. I just came across this. I was scanning some social media. There's places I go to see if anything new is popping in news while you're listening to news and information break. I have seen this before. It's from an old magazine called Radio Times. This was November of 1974. It shows a artist rendition of the planet Earth, and the ice sheet on the northern part of the country goes all the way down through Wyoming. In other words, that's how much of the top of the planet, if you want to call it the top, is covered in ice. And the headline says, "The ice age cometh." It's true, it says. The weather's getting worse. Ice a mile thick has covered Britain 20 times the Earth's recent past, and Wyoming too, by the way. It's due again. Back feature, the weather machine, Wednesday, et cetera, goes on to, okay, so, yeah, we remember that was the big thing back in the 70s. We're heading for another ice age. And the science is settled and the debate is over, remember that. All right, from Cowboy State Daily. For you ranchers out there, for people like me, I'm not a rancher, but this is just amusing. Why airlifting cows by helicopter may not be practical for Wyoming ranchers. And there's a picture here of a very depressed-looking cow in some kind of a body harness being lifted up by a helicopter. The cow just looks so defeated in this picture. Story says, when Wyoming, who thought to do a story like this? When Wyoming ranchers need to get medical treatment for hurt cattle, a vet may come to the ranch and treat the animal on site. If that's not possible, a cow could be loaded onto a trailer to get to the nearest clinic. In Switzerland, they fly the friendly skies. Because the rugged landscape and general inaccessibility of where cattle are, getting cows to vets takes a little extra effort. A video posted last week by Nature is Amazing shows how this happens. A cow being evacuated from a mountainous terrain, dangling from a harness from a helicopter. The scene looks like Jurassic Park turning into, well, when they try to feed the T-Rex, if you've watched that. And then, this is bad, the next segment of the story titled Utterly Unnecessary. Oh, God. Jim, Executive Vice President, Wyoming Stock Growers Association, said aerial vehicles like helicopters and drones are tools for Wyoming ranchers to perform a host of tasks, but airlifting livestock, as shown in the video, isn't one of them. Quote, I don't see how it would be practical. See, somebody at Cowboy State Daily actually bothered to ask. Where would it ever happen? It's technically doable, but I don't foresee any real circumstances where it's likely to be used in Wyoming. Well, it has something to do with just basically our topography here. The state of Wyoming is more than 6 times larger than Switzerland, but several mountain ranges also in densely populated Europe. In such mountainous terrain, the most effective way to move a cow, horse or other livestock, by hitching it to a harness and sending it skyward. But here in Wyoming, a lot of people are out there in the prairies, so if it's a highly valuable animal, maybe it's feasible, he says. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look here. Okay, what you're hearing, the music in the background. Yeah, I'm watching a video of a cow. And again, the cow just looks depressed and defeated, being airlifted. Now imagine how much this is freaking out the cow, too. Cows are not used to being off the ground. And this cow is being lifted up really high. All right, so the story says maybe flying cattle with a ticket in a bare basket economy is worth the expense in Switzerland, but if the livestock are still mobile, getting up there by horseback and bringing them down is the most normal method here in the state of Wyoming. And again, they often, here's one, flying deer. Helicopter transport might be too pie in the sky for ranchers, but flying hoofstock can still be. Oh, wait, let me get away from, I know they occasionally do that to relocate livestock with deer. They actually have done that. But here's one that gets me. It's been a while since I've done a post like this. Here in Wyoming, we have lakes, as you know, at some very hard to get to places. Some of you fishermen love going to those places. And some of those lakes are way up in high mountain ranges, like the Bighorn. You know, to name one of many mountain ranges, that there's lakes way up high. So how do you get the fish up there to restock after you fishermen have been up there depleting it? I know the fish are making little babies, but, I mean, sometimes you're fishing it faster than they're making the babies, so what do? There's video of airplanes flying over Wyoming lakes way up at high altitudes and bombing the lake with fish. They load up these airplanes with these tanks underneath, and it's got water and fish in the tanks, and the plane takes off. And the plane flies way up to the top of a mountain, and pick one of our biggest mountain chains up there, right? And then flies over the lake and just opens up the tanks and bombs with fish. Now, according to Wyoming Game and Fish, it doesn't hurt the fish at all. I would like to ask the fish that. But still, the fish seem to survive it anyway. And that's how we restock here in the state of Wyoming. There's also some video of helicopters doing this, too. Okay. Swing on up into some local news we have to take care of, your weather forecast after that. Now we'll go get on a more serious topic. Oh, and I'm looking at the vote if they're going to try to ban TikTok or not. It looks like they're actually going to do it. That's happening right now. I'll update you on that. Let's wake up, Wyoming.
The best talk show host in the state, within his price range. Tune in to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, weekdays at 6.
8:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, so I'll get into open phones now because I've been rambling on about a few things and taking messages off the app. So if you wanted to get in, now you can do it. 888-97-WOODS, 888-97-WOODS. The House of Representatives has just, by a very large margin, passed a ban on TikTok in the United States, unless and until China gets away from TikTok and becomes independent from China. Now, that doesn't mean that we've banned TikTok. That means the House has. It's got to move on to the Senate, and the president would have to sign it. But, yeah, it was a heavy majority, so that's where we are right now. Other stories. And I'm going to topic hop a little bit. So here's a story. I hate stuff like that. There's always a massive backlash, but I love it when someone stands up. Headline here, student stands ground after being asked by school to remove American flag from truck. How many times do we have to go through this? Every so often, this happens somewhere in America with the same result. And yet some school, every so often, decides to do it again. So, okay, wait. Let me expand the story out a little bit here to get the whole thing. And I hope some people, administrators and so on, lose their job over this. But there's a picture of a pickup truck. So this is a high schooler that owns a pretty nice pickup truck. Student at East Central High School, Indiana, was pulled into the principal's office over the situation. He said that they asked him to take down his flag, which he has, for those people who like to put a flag pole on the back of their truck, so as they drive, the flag waves along. He said they asked him to take it down or be threatened with insubordination. And the student said that it wasn't a problem all school year, but then suddenly it is. He's been flying that flag on his truck for the whole school year. Suddenly it's a problem. He put the flag up because he says it's a unique way to show his pride for his country and pay respect to those who lost their lives fighting for his freedom. He said the school administration asked him twice to remove the flag, and twice so far he said no, absolutely not doing it. I might actually have, this is from, if I'm able to play this, from a local news station there.
Welcome back. A high school senior in Dearborn County is going viral. It's over an American flag on the back of his truck. He says on Thursday the school told him to take it off. It was a violation of school rules. But after a social media post and a show of support from other students, the school is now reversing course. WCPO 9 News reporter Andrew Rowan spoke with that student and has new information from the Eastern Central High School principal.
Wherever 17-year-old Cameron Blazek goes, so does Old Glory.
The flag itself represents this country, this beautiful country that we live in.
He fastened the flag to his truck this summer.
It's very strongly secured in there. I mean, you can't pull that out if you tried.
It abides by the U.S. flag code.
I got pulled aside by my counselor and vice principal, and they told me, hey, you got to remove the flag off the back of your truck. And I kind of looked at him, and I said, no. I said, it's not going to happen. I said, I can't.
Cameron held the line.
Read through East Central's 2023-2024 handbook, and the word flag wasn't even mentioned in the parking lot or driving section. The only section it's mentioned in is the flag twirling section.
Boy.
The next day at school, others showed up with flags of their own.
There was a huge support group there that believed and stood for the same thing that I did, and I was kind of shocked by that.
That's when the principal sent a letter to parents Friday to, quote, address recent concerns and confusions, writing, I am pleased to inform you that we are allowing the display of the U.S. flag by students in the parking lot. Principal Black clarified to WCPO in an email that there has never been a complaint about the U.S. flag. One literally hangs above the parking lot, and that school administrators decided Friday they would, quote, prohibit other flags if they were determined to be offensive. A social media post about all this went viral.
I was pretty surprised by it that it got so many views and pretty much that it got the attention it did.
There are veterans in this family, and Cameron himself is considering serving.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of him. He stood his ground and stood up for what he believed in.
No, there you go. I love the fact you didn't get to see it, but there were so many vehicles at the school with flags as soon as this kid noticed the problem. Greg is in Laramie. Morning, Greg.
Morning, Glenn. How
Yes,
you
sir.
doing?
Very good. What you got?
Well, you know, I heard some of your stuff on the gun bill, and it seems like everybody's under the impression that you have to go through a training program to get a concealed carry?
No, not necessarily, but you do have to go through some kind of a check and so on. Getting a concealed carry permit is a pretty involved background check, but training programs are recommended to get a concealed carry.
Oh, so my understanding is you don't need training whatsoever. You just can get, if you're an American citizen, you can just conceal carry in Wyoming.
Well, okay. There is a little bit more to it. Now, for those people a little bit more familiar, if you have a concealed carry in Wyoming, if you could tell us what you went through. Because I do, and there's a little bit more of a process. Now, to open carry, or just, okay, here's the deal with the gun bill that we're talking about. You can, in Wyoming, if you're a law-abiding citizen, you can go ahead and carry a gun anywhere you want, any way you want. But if you're going to go into City Hall or a school or a hospital, then you have to have a concealed carry permit, and that's a process that you have to go through.
But with the new gun bill, you will not have to have that concealed. I read just like the flag, gentlemen. Yeah. I read both those laws, and it pretty much you read through it, and if you're basically me, right? I have a gun. I've never gone through a training program, but I can conceal carry anywhere I want. And if the governor signs it, I can go to the legislature, conceal carry without any training whatsoever.
My understanding of that bill, but I'll tell you what, I'll go back and double check this, is that in order to walk into a building like the legislature, you would have to have a concealed carry permit. And that's again.
No, it references, it actually references the original. And if you read through that. Yeah. It exempts you. You read those I's, fours, Romanettes, as they call them. You don't have to have any training whatsoever. Okay. You just have to be over 21
And have a clean criminal background. My impression was you had to have a bill, but I tell you what, I'll go back to the people, especially I know the people who sponsored the bill and got it through, and I'll go back and double check to see if we missed anything, okay? And we'll find out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you did. Okay. I'll be concealed carrying without any training whatsoever.
Okay. Let's find out what they say about it. I appreciate your call. I'll go ahead and take a look and make sure we get it right. Let's go to Crazy Ted from Mills, Reno Air Races. Hi, Ted.
Hey, Glenn, how are you this morning?
Good, sir. What you got?
Good. Joe Biden's at my house this morning. I'm giving him some breakfast, so hold on a minute.
Okay.
Joe, what do you want? I don't want oatmeal. Bring me some ice cream, damn it. So
make sure he puts his teeth in before he eats.
Exactly. Well, anyway, have you heard any more on the Reno air races?
No, I'm waiting. Now, for those who don't know, Reno, Nevada had air races for quite a long time. And those air races are like NASCAR, but in the air. And one of the most winning air race winners of winning air racing history is actually in Casper, Wyoming. And his airplane, he's not alive anymore, but his airplane is still in Casper. And so they want to bring, now that the Reno air races will no longer be in Reno, they want to bring him to maybe Casper. There's 3 places on the list, Ted, and Casper's one of them.
Sweet. Yes. I'm kind of an amateur photographer. Or at least I fake it anyway.
Okay. So I fake doing a radio show every day. I don't know why they pay me to do this.
Right?
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah. Me too. I do all kinds of freelance stuff.
Okay.
They pay me. I can't figure it out. Okay. But anyway, I got a quick airplane joke for you.
Go for it.
Okay, you hear about the German fighter pilot that had Crohn's disease?
No.
He flew a Messerschmitt.
Okay. Bye, Ted. So, the Reno air races, it's like NASCAR, but in the air. And someone named Jim Good, who flew, he was from Casper, Wyoming, used to fly, and man, did he win. He's got a long history of winning in the Reno air races. Reno, Nevada is no longer hosting the air races, so the place has to look for a home. There was a list of quite a few places around the country that wanted the air races. There's now 3 possibilities left. And one of those possibilities is Casper, Wyoming. And we did have air races once before, years ago. We had air races, so we might be able to bring them back. Let's find out.
Okay, I'm usually not one to brag about expensive trips that I take, but I just got back from the grocery store.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Make your voice heard at 888-97-WOODS. This is AM 1030, K2 Radio.
8:49 is the time. Off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino's on the line. I got a new sporting event for you, Frank. You're going to love this one.
All right, let me see.
It's called Justin Hill Shootout. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay. This is a motorcycle race across some really rough terrain in Wyoming.
Okay. Now, like an enduro kind of a thing, maybe?
Yeah, you don't have to be an expert. If you're a professional, they have a class for that. Okay. If you're a really good amateur, they have a class for that. If you suck, like I would, they have a class for that too, and that's okay. If they see, like if I were to try to get into where the good riders are and it's not working out, they'll just say, don't worry about it. We'll just put you in this other class over here, which means they put training wheels on the motorcycle, I
don't know. I went to one of those in Upton 2 years ago.
Right.
I mean, there's 5 huge areas that they had to go through.
Oh, yeah.
Over like logs and rough trails and they're racing.
Yes.
And they're, everyone's got one of those computer chips. They chip you when you're there and here's your time. I mean, that's not easy.
This is one of those races. It's called the Justin Hill Shootout. We might be talking about the same one. So it's been going on for quite a long time. It's become a huge event now. That's coming pretty soon. Let me see, August 27th, Riverton, Wyoming.
Oh, it's in Riverton, okay.
Riverton, okay. And they also have payouts for winning, things like that. But, I put up a post on the Wake Up Wyoming site. So if you're a dirt biker out there and you really want to give this a try, this is what I like about it, Frank. You really don't have to be good. You may just want to participate. But if you are good, man, go for it.
I think you better be good. In men's college basketball tonight, the Wyoming Cowboys taking on Fresno State this afternoon in the Mountain West Conference tournament in Las Vegas. Pokes just a middle-of-the-road team this season. They have 15 wins, 16 losses. And Fresno State, they're just awful. 11-20 on the year, and UW crushed Fresno over the weekend. So you would think this is a very winnable game from Wyoming's point of view. And the winner of this game will take on the top seed of the tournament, Utah State, tomorrow. This afternoon's game starts at noon, and we'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KCGY in Laramie. JUCO basketball, the Women's Region 9 tournament will be in Casper this year, hosted by Casper College. And the host T-Birds come in as the number 1 seed from the north with a record of 25-5. They're rated 16th in the country. They'll play McCook, Nebraska tomorrow at 7 p.m. And McCook won the tournament playing game versus Lamar. The Men's Region 9 tournament is in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, hosted by Western Nebraska. And Casper College at 23-8 will take on McCook, Nebraska on Thursday. At 5 p.m. The Birds will won their playing game over the weekend, beating Eastern Wyoming 114-94. And McCook beat NJC in Sterling, Colorado by 2 in their playing game. So those Region 9 tournaments will run through Saturday. High school basketball, the 4A All-State teams have been announced for the boys. Drew Jackson of Cheyenne East named All-State for the third time in his career. 4A state champion Cheyenne Central with a 2-time All-State pick in Joe Sawyer, and his teammate Sam Shumway named All-State for the first time. 4A runner-up Laramie with 2 players making All-State, Neil Summers, who was a 2-time All-State pick, and Jaden Smith is the other guy, and the Tronas Colton Rogers named All-State. On the girls' side, Brady Slaps from Cheyenne East, now a 4-time All-State selection, and teammate Jade Brown made All-State for the first time. Izzy Kelly of Cheyenne Central and Kennedy Davila of Kelly Walsh, first-time All-State picks, and Laramie's Addison Forey made All-State for the second straight year. College wrestling, Wyoming Cowboy Jory Volk punched his ticket to the NCAA Wrestling Championships as he won the Big 12 Tournament Championship at 125 pounds in Tulsa over the weekend. Volk beat Oklahoma State's Troy Spratley 3-2 with a takedown the last half minute of the match. Sophomore won all 3 of his matches at the Big 12 tournament by 1 point. And the NCAA tournament starts a week from tomorrow in Kansas City. That's it in sports.
Wow, all the way in Kansas City to do this.
I want to go there one of these days. You know what I want to see? They have a huge World War I museum.
Oh. Have you been to the one in Du Bois yet?
Yes.
Oh, my God. I've had a chance to talk to the gentleman who owns the place, and he gave a tour. And wow. And he just keeps adding more stuff.
I think he has a big garage somewhere.
Yes, it's called the museum. No. All right, thank you, Frank. Yeah, if you haven't been to that, Du Bois, Wyoming, there's a military museum there, and it's all about military armament, tanks, and things like that. So, all right. It's worth the drive out there to see if you haven't seen that yet. Coming up on some local business, news time after that, national local update on the weather forecast, Wake Up Wyoming.
Mountain.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It is open phone, so you can do what the last couple of callers did, which is change the subject if you want. We've got a lot to cover this hour.
Today's show is sponsored by shrimp-flavored breath mints. Seals love them, and you will too.
Try a shrimp-flavored breath mint and plan a kiss on her. I'm sure she'll just absolutely love it. Hi, Sven. Sven's over in Green River. We were talking about guns and concealed carry. To clear up this much of it, since our friend Greg from Laramie called about the new gun-free zones, and that would be getting rid of gun-free zones in the state of Wyoming, which now sits on the governor's desk to see if he signs it. Now, my confusion in a little bit, this is why I got a hold of, or I sent a note to, I should say, Wyoming gun owners. Could they get someone on the program, because they had a lot to do with this bill, and explain what finally passed. And the reason that I say that is when a bill is introduced in the House and Senate, they're usually a little bit different. They go through committees, and by the time they get done with the committees, they're very different. And then there's debate on the floor of the House and Senate, which continues to change the bill. And then finally, when each House and Senate passes the bill, Then they have to bring it together in reconciliation, which a lot of times makes it a completely different bill. And then that has to get passed. Okay, so then the governor signs it, or not. So I'm looking at it going, well, what exactly did we finally get in the end? Now, here's what is true for some of the confusion that's out there about guns in Wyoming. Under Wyoming, and many states are doing this now. It's not just Wyoming. Many states across the country are doing this. If you are a law-abiding citizen, then you don't have to explain anything to anybody. If you want to carry a gun, open carry or conceal carry, you go right ahead. You're a law-abiding citizen. You've never done anything to anybody. If you feel the need, do it. Because it's your right. It's your call. Now, as far as this, well, when we were passing that in Wyoming, there were those who were saying, there's going to be a gunfight in the street like the old days of the Old West. Okay, actually, contrary to popular belief, the Old West gunfight in the street very rarely happened back in those days. It did happen, but it very rarely happened. Gunfights in the street are more common today. Go to Chicago as an example. Okay, so this new bill, originally, we'll see what passed because, again, things change. So Greg brings up a good point. That's why I reached out to Wyoming gun owners. Originally, the way I had read this is if you want to carry into your city hall, if you want to carry a gun concealed into the Wyoming legislature, if you want to carry it into school, whatever, you're going to have a permit to do that, is the way I originally read the bill. Unless they strip that out at some point, I don't know. Okay, but my argument with this has been, somebody can go ahead and conceal carry a gun into the Wyoming legislators, up into the gallery, whether that's known or not. Someone can do that. You ever been to a Wyoming legislative session? If you want to walk in and go sit up there, and go ahead. And it would be very easy for someone to conceal and carry in. If the bad guys can do that, well, then you want to let the good guys do it. You want law-abiding citizens to be able to do that, too, so they can fight back. That's the logic behind it. But what finally passed? I don't know. Now, Sven over in Green River, he and I were talking about getting a permit. You don't have to get a permit in Wyoming, but you still can. And that's not a bad idea if you want to carry into other states, because many other states have reciprocity with Wyoming. So if you're carrying a gun and you drive across the border of another state that has reciprocity with Wyoming, you're good. Keep going. But if you don't have a permit, then you can't. Okay? That's where the permit comes in. That's the permitless carry is only good within the state of Wyoming. Outside, it's a different story. So that's where you want to get a hold of your permit to do so. As far as having to take a class to get a permit, no. It is more of an extensive background check than anything else to make sure that you are actually a law-abiding citizen. Class is recommended? Yes. Do you have to? No. All right. And since we've had this law in Wyoming that law-abiding citizens can carry whatever they want, however they want, there were those who were saying, well, oh my Lord, it's going to get so dangerous in Wyoming. And it hasn't at all. It just means that you folks out there who would like to be able to defend yourself are now able to do so without fear of the police stopping you. What are you doing with that? You can go ahead and carry what you want. You're allowed to. You're in Wyoming. That's the way this works. Okay, trigger warning.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave. 912 is the time. 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Some of the other things I got to talk about here. PETA, yes, I know, people eating tasty animals, has asked the First Lady of the United States, Jill Biden,
to swap out Easter eggs for potatoes this year. Yeah, every year they have, I know, every year they have the Easter egg roll, right? Well, in this case, why would you not? I'm trying to figure out why people think, PETA think that that's unethical, because the eggs that they're rolling, as far as I know, they're not fertilized, right? What's the problem? Here's the note. I'm writing on behalf of the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, the world's largest animal rights organization, with more than 5 million members, I doubt that, and supporters in the U.S. to respectfully suggest appealing away with modernizing the White House Easter egg roll. So what is it going to be now, the Easter potato roll? One that would be truly inclusive. See, they always have to throw in buzzwords. Inclusive is one of them. And be welcomed by every tot who doesn't eat eggs for religious, cultural, and environmental reasons. Are you not eating eggs for environmental reasons? I was not aware of that. Or because they object to the way animals, including hens, whose reproductive systems are exploited for eggs and are raised and killed these days. Instead of promoting the factory farming and slaughter of these industries, will you please initiate the annual White House potato roll? Easter is a time of renewal or joy for chickens on egg factory farms. It can take up to 36 hours in typically hellish conditions for a hen who spends her entire life in a cage smaller than a sheet of paper to produce one of these thousands of eggs. And it goes into, amid the worst avian flu outbreak in history, which almost 82 million birds, almost egg-laying chickens have been slaughtered. During a time of rising egg prices, et cetera, they go on. So, okay, here's what I want you folks to do, if you would. Just because, look, let's give PETA a break for once. We're always picking on them. This Easter, instead of going out and getting Easter eggs and painting them up, and then this is so cruel. You hide them on the kids, and you make the kids go find them. And you don't want to use plastic eggs because petroleum products. Can't use petroleum products. Some people use plastic eggs and they put coins in them. That's capitalism. Can't do that. Instead, we would like you to either paint potatoes, or maybe go get Mr. Potato Head sets and decorate your potatoes and hide them instead. I'm sure it'll be fine.
In the state of Wyoming, there are highways that need your attention. You can adopt a highway.
A highway just merged with a beautiful little 2-lane scenic bypass. And now they have an off-ramp of their very own.
Just make sure Wyoming highways stay clean and well-maintained. Adopt a highway today.
If it matters in Wyoming, it matters to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Call Glenn at 888-97-WOODS and make your voice heard. AM 1030, K2 Radio.
9:22 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Get some of the notes I have over here on the Wake Up Wyoming app. So, Wiles guys, we have a slight disagreement. He says to me, just FYI, the Old West gun violence was a serious problem, so much so that in many cities, towns, carrying firearms was prohibited. For example, Dodge City banned carrying firearms. Well, actually, if you go back and take a look at, there were some big problems, like Dodge City was, and then OK Corral. There were some big famous gunfights and so on. In fact, if you go over to the Black Hills and Deadwood, there was the occasional problem there. But actually, in the Old West, gunfights were it's not like you see in old Western movies. Did they happen? Yes. But when you take a look at the statistics, it actually happens more so per capita in some cities and towns around America, especially big cities. Again, that's why I mentioned Chicago and Detroit, places like that, than it ever did today. So it was actually quieter back then in the Old West than it is today. So the idea that, was it a problem? In some places, yeah, there were some wild towns. In fact, if you take a look, I remember writing an article about the town of Medicine Bow, which was a very dangerous place for a while there. I mean, the murder rate was actually kind of high. But overall, when you take a look at the Old West, overall, most of the Old West was actually pretty quiet. There were some instances that happened that do get us a lot of attention because they've, become famous moments, like, again, the gunfight at the OK Corral, some famous moments in Western history. But when I went back some time ago and looked at the numbers and found that actually the Old West was a bit quieter than you might think. What gives us the impression that the Old West was a very dangerous place is Old West movies that made it seem so. So there were a few places. There's always a few places. That's why I mentioned Medicine Bow way back when, here in Wyoming, was at one point a very dangerous place. But it might surprise you to find out how quiet the Old West actually was. And then today, we're actually living in much more violent times today, especially with some of our major cities. And I have to also mention New York and L.A. and other, big cities like that. Wow. I mean, shootings are constantly going on. And you still hear about shootings today in Wyoming. That still happens. In fact, we just got done with one, not just in Cheyenne, just a day or so ago, but up in Sheridan. Remember where they lost an officer up there. So it still happens to this day. But yeah, a lot of the stories about the Old West that you hear about and the reputation of the Old West, much of it is old lore. Not to say it was perfectly quiet. It was not. It was definitely a dangerous place back then. Let's see, Windy Skies. Let's see, I said, Sven in Green River. I gotta say, wait a second now, Sven, you owe me an extra N. See, my name has two N's. So do me a favor, just send one letter N. And I'll go ahead and insert that in for you. Check out Wyoming Statute 68104, ABG, I believe. Training is a requirement to obtain a Wyoming concealed carry permit. Okay, I did put a note out to Wyoming gun owners, which is one of the many groups out there that we're talking to on this. They're very knowledgeable in this. And I asked, and they didn't respond yet, but will somebody please come on the program who's much more knowledgeable, and they'll go ahead and clarify a lot of this. So, okay. This is Cowboy State Daily. 8 communities competing for a $100 million Wyoming shooting complex. Now, a lot of times when I read this story about the potential of getting a Wyoming shooting complex, people say, but we have gun ranges in my county here in Wyoming. You do. But not like this. We're talking Olympic level. All right. So ground could be broken as soon as summer 2025. World-class Wyoming shooting complex. At least 8 communities are jockeying to choose its home. Wyoming Shooting Complex Task Force has called out for letters of interest, and letters of interest are coming in. I did speak with the gentleman who I'm not going to disparage. I really like the guy. But he's a representative in the state of Wyoming, and he and I disagree on where the funding comes from. If you want to go ahead and do a world-class shooting complex in the state of Wyoming, and it would cost about $10 million to build it, I am all for it. Go get private money. Go get private money. It was Representative Art Washat, Republican of Casper, Wyoming, I believe, that I was talking to about this. And that's our only disagreement. I don't like taxpayer money being spent on something like this. I like the idea, though. But, okay, some of the communities being considered: Natrona County, Park County, Cheyenne, Fremont County, Hot Springs County, Uinta County, and Guernsey are some of the communities. Ninth community, which is Wasat, declined to step in. Okay, so got to get it moving. Next step will be for 8, possibly 9 communities to answer requests. And it talks about the documents included on how to get this done. And there's big expectations. And they talk about even the wind factor, what would make a good shooting complex and so on. And again, I'm all for the idea. I mean, Wyoming, to have world-class shooting competitions, absolutely, with a perfect place for it. It always comes down to me, I'm more of the libertarian guy. It always comes down to me for, where's the money coming from? Thank you, Sven. Sven sent me another letter N. I will insert it. My name is not Glenn, it's Glenn. So there's a second N there. You hear that? Yeah, okay. Anyway, so yeah, I'm all for it. I just disagree. Please do not take $10 million or even any millions of dollars or any money from the taxpayers' state of Wyoming to go ahead and build this thing. But that's the more libertarian in me for doing stuff like this with private money. And then by all means, build it and let's go. I'm a big advocate for bringing the Reno air races to Casper, Wyoming. Yeah, you know, I'm an aviation buff, so of course I want them here. And I don't want any tax money to go for it. It's a private endeavor. And then by all means, bring it in, right? All right, coming up on some local news we have to take care of. After local news, we're going to get into your weather forecast. Keep a listen to that because it's being updated as that storm system moves toward us. 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Wake up, Wyoming.
Serious takes on local politics. Tune in weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject. Fine by me. Few stories have snuck in on me while we've been talking on the air. So one you might have heard, a judge in Georgia just dismissed some charges against Trump in the Fani Willis election case. Not all the charges, but some of them. So there's details on that coming out. Also, that bipartisan bill. And this is one of those cases where it really is truly bipartisan. To ban TikTok passed the U.S. House of Representatives. Now it's got to go to the Senate. We'll see what the president does about it. And that's predicated on, does TikTok cut ties with China? Because if it does, then fine. You still got TikTok. Which is actually, I've used it. It's an easy to use and fun platform. I see why people like it so much. But they got to get China out of it if they're going to keep it in the United States, according to the House anyway. We'll see what the Senate does. We'll see what the president does. Then, I'm just going to click on, I have no idea. This story just popped up. Let's go to Maryland real quick. The city's equity official. Now, whenever we get to DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, a lot of times these people are actually causing the problem. Maryland's equity official says she wants the U.S. to burn to the ground. My ideology can rise from the ashes. Oh, she sounds like she's just great for the country. Bob is in Cheyenne about gun permits. Hello, Bob.
Hi.
Yes, sir.
You had a question about what all it takes to get a gun permit.
Right.
And I have one, so I can tell you.
Okay.
You have to go to your local sheriff's office, and then you go in and you fill out an application for a carry permit. It costs you, I think the first time is like $70, non-refundable, of course.
Okay.
You have to have a gun safety course of some sort. They run a background check, and they include fingerprinting in this. They run a national background check on you. And you fill all this out, it goes in, and if you're cleared, you will get one. Now, something that this gun permit does, it's tied directly to your driver's license, and it's also tied to your license plate. So if a cop pulls you over, he knows when he walks up to the car that you are permitted.
Okay.
The nice thing about that, it kind of helps, you don't get mistakes that way.
Right.
Nobody gets upset if they know you have a gun in your van.
Right, and you're a permit. But the fact that you're a permit holder with the rigors of going through the process, that chances are that you're a bad person who's doing bad things is extraordinarily low.
Right. It lets the cop know that at least you're a responsible gun owner, and he's probably not going to get gunned down when he goes up to your window.
Right. Okay.
And I understand the permitting is not for everywhere. There are places that any private business will be able to say,
sure.
no, we don't want guns in here.
Yeah.
But most public places will allow it then.
Okay. But you had to go through training to get that?
I'm prior military.
Yeah.
And so I've already had the training and everything.
Okay. Right.
So I didn't have to. And then you have to renew it every year, and every 3 years. I'm sorry, about every 3 or 4 years, and it's $50 to renew it.
Okay. All right, Bob. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'm learning a little bit more about how this works. All right. Let's go to Rose in Casper. Hello, Rose.
Hi, Glenn. How are you?
Very good. What you got?
Well, I heard Colby Fedor talking about city council and demolishing hazardous structures around the town.
Mm-hmm.
And the cost of demolishing a single-story basic house is $10,000 to $15,000.
Right.
There's a better option to that.
Okay.
If they're structurally sound, they can be relocated. I moved a house 90 miles that is historical on its 100-year birthday, and it costs around the same price. But then on top of that, you can hire a contractor and electricians and, various workers to help fix up a house, so that generates money rather than just putting it in a landfill.
Right.
They do it in every town but Casper, all around us.
Okay. What about those places that are just too far gone, though, that are become a hazard?
If they're too far gone, that's one thing, but as long as the bones are there, you consider the cost of building prices right now to frame something up, and you don't get the quality of lumber that you have in a 100-year-old house.
Okay.
Then secondly, you were talking about the subsidies with the shooting complex and everything, and I stand with you. If it's a private venture, do it privately. So with that, the Delta Sky West subsidy is going to be a discussion at the next county commission meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Should be next Tuesday night, 5:30.
Right.
They've already donated $1,343,494 to Delta Sky West, and they're looking at an additional $645,000 this go round.
Okay. Yeah, and I would love to see the amount of traffic needed to keep those airlines in the area, because I use it myself, and I would love to see that. But then again, I'm a free market guy, and if the market can't support it, well, then, it can't.
Sure. I just saw an ad that's Fly Casper, whatever that organization is, $11 million that it's brought into Natrona County, for having this subsidy. Well, if it's bringing in that kind of revenue, I fail to understand why, out of that $11 million, why these local businesses can't chip in and fund something like that if they want to maintain that flight.
Okay. Good point. All right. I got to run. Thank you, Rose. I appreciate your call. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Polish off that tin hat. You'll need it for this one. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Available on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
9:48 the time. Off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino is waiting by. So, Frank, I was just looking at a picture here. There's a place I subscribe to, a follow on Facebook, that has just to do with old radio. I think I've told you about this before, right? Yeah. And they're showing a guy who's in the late 1950s, early 60s, and he's doing a radio remote. Now, he had to show up with a whole van full of equipment.
Yeah, we used to have those antennas.
Mm-hmm. The Marty unit.
Marty, and then we had a Yagi.
Yagi, okay. So the antenna was the Yagi, and the transmitter was the Marty. That was the box that you went through.
Yeah.
And then this guy also had to show up with turntables and card machines and a microphone.
In a pickup truck.
Yes, in all of that so he could broadcast live. Now, I did just recently. I went down to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and for KGAB, I was there broadcasting live from a Thankful Thursday event.
Okay.
It's an app on my phone.
Right, just talking to your phone.
That's it, and I'm there.
Yeah.
And I can control the radio stations from it, too.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, you can put like Slipknot on there?
No, I don't mess with it, Frank, but I could.
Oh, okay.
But no, all I do is I just send the breaks in, and it just goes on the air, and it's just magic like that. And I kind of feel a little naked doing this, Frank, because when I pull up to do the live remote, you remember you had to do it. Television, Frank.
Oh, too much.
Yes. I thought radio was bad.
We were like mules.
Yes. In fact, I was talking to a young lady who is on a local television station here in town as a reporter. And I remember seeing her in downtown with somebody helping her because the other guy had the camera and the big utility belt.
Yeah.
And the tripod.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And the lights.
And the lights, and they got rid of him. And so she had to lug all of that around and do it all herself.
She's young. She can do it.
But then they got rid of all of that, and I saw her with a small tripod and her cell phone. And she was broadcasting from the downtown.
Yeah, right where you're at. Yeah.
And so I walked up and talked to her about that, and I said, boy, haven't things changed a lot in just a few, and she says, oh, Lord, my muscles don't ache anymore.
Mine did for years.
Oh, my Lord. I've seen reporters out of Denver.
Oh, doing their own stuff, yeah.
Yeah, live on the air, broadcasting live during the evening news, and all they have is their cell phone.
Oh, boy.
It's changed a lot, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, because the pictures are better.
Yes.
They're far more
audio quality.
They're crisp and there's digital quality
you're
audio.
You're not going to have to see a chiropractor after that,
you
Frank.
don't.
You're fine.
Tell me about it. March Madness for the Wyoming Cowboy basketball team starting this afternoon in Las Vegas for the Mountain West Conference Tournament. They'll take on the Fresno State Bulldogs at noon. Cowboys, just a middle-of-the-road team this season, the 15-16 overall, but Fresno State is just awful. They're 11-20, and UW crushed Fresno over the weekend, so you would think this is a very winnable game from Wyoming's point of view. And the winner of this game gets the top seed in the tournament, Utah State, tomorrow. This afternoon's game starts at noon from the Thomas & Mack Center. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KCGY in Laramie. Junior college basketball, the Women's Region 9 tournament will be hosted by Casper College this year, and the T-Birds will come in as the number one seed from the north. They have a record of 25-5. They're rated 16th in the country. They'll play McCook, Nebraska tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the T-Bird Gym. McCook won their tournament play-in game versus Lamar by 2 points. And the men's Region 9 tournament in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, Casper College is 23-8. And they will take on McCook, Nebraska, Thursday at 5 p.m. T-Birds won their play-in game over the weekend, beating Eastern Wyoming 114-94. And McCook beat NJC in Sterling in Colorado by 2 in their play-in game. So those Region 9 tournaments will start on Thursday to run all day Friday and all day Saturday. High school basketball, the 4A All-State teams have been announced for the boys. Drew Jackson of Cheyenne East named All-State for the third time in his career. 4A state champion Cheyenne Central with a 2-time All-State pick in Joe Sawyer, and his teammate Sam Shumway was named All-State for the first time. 4A runner-up Laramie with 2 players making All-State. Neil Summers is a 2-time All-State pick, and Jaden Smith is the other Plainsman All-State selection. And the Trona's Colton Rogers was named All-State as well. On the girls' side, Brady Schlaps of Cheyenne East, now a 4-time All-State pick, and teammate Jade Brown made All-State for the first time. Izzy Kelly of Cheyenne Central and Kennedy Davila of Kelly Walls, first-time All-State picks, and Laramie's Addison Forey made All-State for the second straight year. College wrestling, Wyoming Cowboy grappler Jory Volk punched his ticket to the NCAA Wrestling Championships. He won the Big 12 Tournament Championship at 125 pounds in Tulsa over the weekend. Volk beat Oklahoma State's Troy Spratley 3-2 with a takedown in the last half minute of the match. The NCAA Tournament for Wrestling starts a week from tomorrow in Kansas City.
Okay, I just was interested in that first story where the Wyoming team hasn't been doing all that well, but the other team sucks even more.
Yes, so this is a golden opportunity for Wyoming to win.
Yes, that doesn't mean they will.
But I think their chances are better than 50-50.
Better than 50-50.
Better than 50-50.
Frank has made his prediction, so go to Vegas and bet the opposite.
Everyone in Vegas, come on, bet Cowboys, come on.
Bet Cowboys. All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business news time after that. Oh, and we do have some weather coming in later today overnight. I know you in Colorado, you're really going to get it. Wyoming's going to get a good chunk of that as well, so just be prepared for that. Folks along I-80, you know the drill. It's Wake Up Wyoming.